Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Newmetrix session here at Groundbreak, leading indicators of safety risk, the metrics you're not tracking but should be. I'm Josh Canner. I'll be working with Tim Gattie as we deliver the contents today. This is some brand new material we've never delivered before. We're really excited to bring it here to Groundbreak and to share it with our partner and all of our customers on the call. We'll introduce ourselves here shortly and then get into the meat of things. We see a huge opportunity at Newmetrix in all the data that's being gathered today, whether it's in Procore or other systems, being able to use that data for change and safety. What we're going to do is walk you through that opportunity, how Tim and I see the opportunity every day with all the data our customers are collecting, how safety is tracked now, what some of the metrics are that are being used to be able to measure safety performance. And then what we're going to do for the first time ever is reveal some new benchmark metrics that we, with our new name, Newmetrix, are releasing to the industry as a whole. We're really excited to do it here and debut it at Groundbreak. We'll finish up here with how those benchmarks and metrics can be used as a part of a predictive-based safety program, enabling our customers to achieve even better results than before and address some of the key issues in safety today, both saving lives, sending people home safe, and ultimately reducing costs overall. So let's get right into it here with the speaker intros. I already said my name. Here's my picture and a little bit of background on me. I've been in the industry here, the construction technology industry, for over 15 years. The company here, I should say, Newmetrix, you may know us as SmartVid. We founded SmartVid back in 2015 with very similar goals to what Newmetrix is about, using the data that companies are already collecting. What we built SmartVid on top of is the customers and a lot of the relationships with CIOs and field folks from Vela Systems, where I was co-founder, which is now Autodesk BIM 360 Field. I apologize for saying that name. It might get bleeped out, I think, maybe in post-production. But the end story is the same. A lot of experience here working in the field and construction, bringing new technology to bear. When doing these kinds of webinars, I always like to mention a fun fact or two. One of the best parts of my job, and I've missed it during these COVID times, it's great to be getting back out there, is actually going out and walking job sites. The best day of my career actually was walking in the morning, Yankee Stadium, while that was in construction, going from Joe Girardi's office, walking out through center field, and then in the afternoon being at the Meadowlands and being on that job as it was being built, which, by the way, is really hard for me to say because I'm a Boston guy, and so seeing New York teams is tough for me. I'm also a fan of collaboration in our industry. I guess the fact that I can go to Yankees and Giants stadiums shows that I'm pretty good at collaborating with others. So I'm a fan of that. We've done something here at Newmetrix called the Predictive Analytics Council, where we've partnered with a whole bunch of different companies that are interested in how the concept of the concept of data and predictions can be used to help improve our industry overall. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to introduce himself, Tim Gattie, our VP of Industry Strategy, and then we'll keep rolling. Tim, over to you.
Hi, my name's Tim Gattie. I'm the VP of Industry Strategy here at Newmetrix, and before coming here, I spent about 20 years in the industry actually building stuff. So I'm actually a civil engineer and a construction guy at heart, but I did have a few experiences through my career that drove me to really develop a passion for safety. And I've always had an inclination toward data and technology, and I've decided to combine those two and join Josh and his team to bring more awareness to the industry. And I'm really excited to share the results of some of the research that I've been doing here on these metrics over the past 2 years with you all today. My fun facts are that I enjoy the outdoors. I'm the kind of person that just loves to get in a car. I live in Arizona, so I get to drive like 3 hours and I can be at the Grand Canyon. So just taking a random weekend road trip. I wear my data nerd badge proudly. And my first project was the Cleveland Browns Stadium. So the sports theme from Josh's intro continues here.
So let's get to the why. Tim, you mentioned that you got interested in safety on the job. It's really similar here to this statistic that we got from one of our customers that shows the fatality rate remaining unchanged in safety over the last 10 years. So this is for the U.S. Department of Bureau of Labor Statistics, this chief safety officer said to us, listen, we gotta do something new. We got to figure out a way to break through this logjam. And it's a very similar chart for recordable incident rates, who really has not changed in the last 10 years. And that's really at the core of what we're trying to do here, is to try and break through this plateau and get it to the next level.
Yeah,
Tim, you also had experience, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're going to talk a little bit about what got us here, won't get us there in a little bit. But when I saw this, it spoke to me as well. We've tried different things. We tried the flavor of the week. We try keeping people engaged, but really, what it's going to take here is a different approach, and that's what we're here to show you all today.
So one of the things that, Tim, you and I have both seen now, being in the industry for almost 40, I don't want to say too much to make us seem really old, but over 40 years, is that there's data out there. There's this FMI study, big data equals big questions, which came out in 2018, that has this kind of shocking statistic: 96% of all the data generated in our industry goes unused. I feel like I've been a part of helping and seeing that digitization trend in the industry.
Yeah, for sure. I've got all sorts of stories about this, but even if we do a good job of collecting data, as we'll talk about here in a minute, I had an incident on a job where I was collecting a ton of data on safety. It just wasn't getting used right. I've seen other contractors where you ask them for their records of observations, and they pull out a stack of paper, and it's like, okay, we're not using all that stuff, and there's better ways to tie it together. There's better ways to collect it that'll make it more beneficial to the industry as a whole.
Yeah, it's interesting. The whole concept of a paper filing cabinet is, you see it all over the place. I remember you telling me that story, Tim. Yeah, of looking for observation data and finding it in a filing cabinet. I think as we move to the next slide here on connecting the data dots, there's also a risk that people have digital filing cabinets, right? That we're collecting a whole bunch of data, whether it's image data from progress walks, safety observation data, incident data, schedule data, weather data, time cards. It could go, we're now in this world where a lot of it is digital, but how do we make sure it's not stuck in these, digital filing cabinets?
Yeah, totally. And I really think that some of this comes from the fact that we took these manual processes, these paper and pen processes, and we just developed digital versions of those. So kind of like going to your doctor's office and filling out your name, address, phone number, and social security number on 5 pages in a row. It's all going to the same place, but somehow you have to fill that out on every piece of paper. I don't understand. But we've done that in construction too, where our data is built in a way that it doesn't have to rely on any other system in order to mean something. And what I get it from a lot of our customers when we first put their data together in our modeling is that it's a realization that it's the first time that observation and incident data have ever been combined with something like a schedule or weather or production data. And it's really interesting to them. And we get to show them some really interesting insights that have been sitting in their, as you call them, digital file cabinets for years that they didn't realize.
Yeah, we'll get into, at the end of this discussion, we'll show how we actually gather that data, how we break down or combine all the digital filing cabinets, put the data together in new ways, connect the dots and come up with metrics. You could call them Newmetrix, for understanding and then ultimately predicting safety risk. It's a really good point when we talk about the digital filing cabinets and breaking things down, because our perspective is actually formed by data. We're excited to be able to share with you here at Groundbreak for the first time some of the insights, some of the benchmarks and new metrics that we have developed, analyzing now over 12 and a half centuries of project and incident data, 115 million construction AI tags applied to imagery and other data, plus the work we've done with clients like the ones you see here, building predictive models and metrics. So this is, think of it as a reporting out back to you as Procore customers and the industry around a huge data set that has given us the ability to one, understand where we're at in terms of the data that's available and can be combined to understand safety risk. And two, we're now at this critical mass where we're able to create these benchmarks, which Tim is going to walk you through, that give us a new way to think about what the levels are, the specific levels are that we should be looking at hitting to achieve greater performance in the safety arena and break through that plateau like we talked about.
And for the first time, using all of this data, we're able to identify exactly how many incidents you should be having, how many observations are optimal for your company, and each project. And we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second. But regarding the outcomes, our predictive models help project teams work from a week-to-week basis in preventing incidents. But what we found is our customers are using the insights similar to what we're going to show you today, using the insights from their models to improve performance by up to 30%. And that reduces their RIR, that saves them time, makes them more efficient, and ultimately it preserves their profit on each of these jobs.
That's great. That's great. All right. Well, let's get into it. Tim, walk us through how safety is tracked today, the data some of the data that's being gathered, and then where we go from here.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where we talk about what got us here. And I'm looking at that, I'm thinking of that flat line, that fatality line. What got us here isn't going to get us there. Total recordable incident rate is measured in person year, or incidents per person year. I mean, that's the most lagging of all lagging indicators, right? And it doesn't even account for minor incidents or how many of those we should be having on our jobs. Observations made, we're doing just solid counts of those and not normalizing them, between a $10 million job and a $100 million job. Or we just tell staff members, oh, do one a week. But how many is the right number? That's what we don't have right now. So to go in a little bit of detail, total recordable incident rate, and this will be a review for most of you, but it's just the number of recordable incidents you have divided by the hours and times 100 person years. And this recordable incident rate is measured to give OSHA indicators of how that industry performs. It's not best suited for our use as a contractor, though. And I talk as a contractor because that's my background, right? It's not suited for us. We need more frequent check-ins on that number and better goals than just driving it to zero. We need to be able to measure the performance more frequently and have a better target to aim at with that metric. And as far as observations go, we need to normalize these. But in order to normalize these, we kind of need to know what that normalization is. Is it per dollar of work in place? Is it per man hour worked on the project? Those are the types of things that only by amassing a huge amount of safety data and connecting it to actual outcomes can we finally say, here's what the right number is and here's how you should approach it.
So Tim, on the observation side, what you're saying here, if I were to put it in my own words, is that we're finally at the point where we can go off of not just a flat number as a recommendation, but by breaking down those data, basically those filing cabinets of digital data, combining them together, we now can actually come up with a more dynamic way of saying, well, how many observations should be made? And use that to make sure that we're actually driving the right kinds of behavior.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you've seen it in the data that we've collected, Josh. When you look at the data and you see that at the end of a month, there's like a huge spike in the number of observations just so people can meet their quotas, right? Well, that spike in data doesn't do anybody any good. It's just checking a box. So we're trying to get folks to actually do these things and get a result of engagement rather than just checking a box.
Yep. Yeah, we just saw that in the webinar we did with our customer, NMCN, where they talked about seeing observation spikes on Fridays.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
So we can do better than that, and that's by measuring our performance using these metrics.
Great. So now we come to the exciting part. So those were some of the metrics that are commonly used in the industry today. Now let's talk about some of the new things that we see are possible and are possible in a couple of ways. One, by analyzing different sources of data. So like the analogy we've used many times now, breaking down those digital filing cabinets, but then doing another couple of things with artificial intelligence. This is really, really interesting. Really, it's an exciting time that we've got this capability. The first that we can do is we can actually start to look at a bunch of data we couldn't look at before. So with AI, instead of being stuck with just numeric data, or what you could think of as structured data, now we can look at unstructured data. So these are things like photos. These are things like what's said in observations. These can be things like predictions. The AI can now start putting all of those together and creating structure out of the unstructured data. The other piece the other thing that's really exciting is that now we're able to, with the data set that we've got, we're able to see how those relate and see which of these potentially, a whole bunch of different potential metrics, which ones actually have a meaningful impact on outcomes. And so that I'm going to turn that over back to you, Tim, to talk us through these 3 new metrics that we're going to introduce that we've seen be extremely important in terms of understanding overall safety performance.
Yeah, exactly. And just to add on to what you just said there in the introduction, Josh, we've had customers come to us say they want to do metrics, or they're just going to do metrics, and our response to that is, well, how do you know what your level should be? And so for the first time, these 3 metrics are showing us what those levels should be for each one of these. The first one here is the modified incident rate. Modified incident rate is very different than the recordable incident rate. It incorporates those minor incidents and gives us all a target, whether it's on the job level, for the corporate level, over a year, a week, a month. It tells us how many incidents we should be seeing across a healthy reporting culture on our jobs. If we're not seeing this number, we need to raise the awareness up of reporting these minor incidents. We all know that they're happening. We just don't know how many we should be seeing. And after analyzing these over 1,000 years worth of data, which is quite a bit, we've been able to narrow it down to this window, or this one target number that we should be seeing. And the way we calculate the modified incident rate is we take the total number of incidents our projects have as the whole, we divide it by the total number of hours worked on those projects, and we multiply it by the number of hours in 100-person weeks. And when we do that, what we get is this modified incident rate. Now note, the incidents and the hours can include subs or can exclude subs. It's whether or not you have that data, but the hours and the incidents should be representative of those same pools. And what this gives us is this metric that allows us to measure how many incidents we've been seeing, whether or not that's enough or not enough. But it doesn't take care of a severity factor that we'll talk about in a second here. This metric's important because it's a leading indicator of performance. If your jobs are doing a good job of reporting these incidents, enough of these incidents, and they're of the right type, it's telling you that job is performing well. It's not as sensitive as RIR to the number of incidents that happen. So it doesn't hit you up like you could have a good year with an RIR, and then the last second you get a bad number or a bad incident, and your number goes way up. It doesn't. It's not looking at that. It's looking at the average number of incidents reported over time, and this again builds that healthy reporting culture.
Tim, one of the key concepts here, right, is that it's including incidents of all types, right? Not just severe incidents or even recordables.
Exactly, and that list of seven incident types is really important. We're gonna touch on that again here in a minute when we talk about the average incident severity.
Great, yeah. So this is used to give a feel for, basically, it's like the company or the project's cadence of incident reporting. Are they reporting? Is the rate at which they're reporting incidents at a certain level, at a certain benchmark? You're now gonna share with folks what we've seen as being a good level for this modified incident rate, all of incident type reporting.
Yeah, exactly. So for the highest performing groups out of that 1,200 years of data, 1,200 plus years of data, what we found is that the projects that reported 12.0 incidents per every 100-person weeks, or the modified incident rate of 12. When they reported at that level, they performed the best out of all the projects in the study. So the aim is to get 12 here. It's not to drive this all the way to 0. It's actually to drive it to 12 from whatever your number is or down from whatever your level is, you're supposed to be seeing this many incidents each and every week, month, or year.
And that can be kind of counterintuitive, right? I mean, to have the suggestion to the field teams be, you guys need to be logging more incidents.
Yeah, and it takes a mature culture to do this, right? I mean, a lot of cultures, there are some out there that they frown upon the reporting of incidents. But what we found in the data is that, for an example, I mean, this is just example of one metric, but when projects have a minor incident, they're actually up to 10 times as likely to have another incident the following week. This is out of some of the predictive modeling that we've done. So we know inherently from that metric that the occurrence of a minor incident is indicative of a future incident to come. And so we want to capture as many as we can to try to isolate where that next incident's going to happen.
Yep. Now, the question that comes into people's minds when they look at this is, all right, well, modified incident rate makes sense. Okay, we want to understand everything, not just severe incidents. Near misses, like you said, are highly indicative of potential problems. But where does severity come in?
Exactly. So you can have a project that reports 5 severe incidents in a week, and that you'll still meet that target perhaps, but that's not the week you want. If I was a project manager, I would not want to be on that job that week. So how do we know if we're reporting the right mix of incidents, right? So this is a.
Now we go to key metric number 2. That was my segue here for you.
Oh, sorry, Josh.
No, go ahead.
So now we couple with that modified incident rate this idea of average incident severity across all of the incidents, and this gives us an idea of not how many incidents we should be having, but are we collecting information on the right mix of incidents? Are we having enough of the right type? And so this metric is a measure of the average severity of the incidents that are ongoing on the projects for the company, and it's over a week, a month, a year, whatever period you'd like to report them. The way it's calculated is we use the Newmetrix standard severity scale, which is shown here on the right. It goes from near miss at 1 all the way up to fatality at 7. And what we do is we apply that severity value to each and every incident that occurs that's reported. And then over the time period that we'd like to study, we just average those numbers. And that tells us whether or not we're having the right mix. We've got the right mix of incidents. Why this is important? Well, it's a counterbalance, number one, to the quantity of incidents we said was the right number to report in the modified incident rate. But it's really a leading indicator of reporting performance. If your teams are doing a good job of reporting minor incidents, the average is going to go down, and that means that culture is developed enough or mature enough to report things that even didn't impact the job significantly. This also places emphasis on those minor incidents and gathering them. And like I said before, those minor incidents are really predictive of future outcomes. So we want to gather as many of those as we can. You ready to reveal the metric, Josh?
I think so. So for key metric number 2, let's get to it.
All right. So the target value for this one should be 2.3 or lower, which means you're trying to report incidents in if you recall the pyramid diagram, you're trying to report incidents as low on that scale or as low on that pyramid as you can. And this means that the majority of your incidents being reported are minor consequence, which is a good thing. If you do have a major one, it could get offset by some of those minor incidents, and over time it'll wash out. But we want to aim for a value of 2.3 or lower.
So 2.3, just to remind folks, near miss was a 1, property damage is a 2, first aid injury is a 3, and a recordable is 4. So 2.3 is below the recordable line, and somewhere a mix of first aids, property damage, and near misses. That really is an indicator, like Tim said, that the culture of the job is working right to be able to document and have as teaching and learning opportunities, and also for predictive data, these incidents of lower severity.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great. So that's our key metric number 2. Number 3, so 1 and 2 complement each other, right? We've got the modified incident rate and then
Yep.
the average incident severity rate, average incident severity rather. Now, key metric number 3, we can start getting into the area of observations. And,
Exactly. Yeah. Now we
that,
know how many incidents we should have, and we know what type of incidents we should be having. Now we're going to talk about, well, how many. This is a real problem for anybody rolling out an observation program. Is how many damn observations should we have? I know it's a frustrating topic for some safety guys because they try to get their folks to do some, and they're trying to reason with their teams on how many they should be collecting, and that's too many, or that's not enough. We know the answer now from this study. We're able to tell you where that sweet spot is. So this craft observation rate is a measure of how many craft hours are occurring on average between observations. It's a measure of basically how often are you engaging these workers in a conversation about safety, and it works to kick off a virtuous cycle of safety ownership. Wanted to note also that this metric is really most effective when you have a conversational based observation approach, not the checklist approach that is common out there as well.
Yeah, we did a webinar earlier this year with one of our customers, Lithgow, large concrete trade, and they have an expression, every observation is a conversation, which I've now heard a whole bunch of different variations of that all over the place. It's really conversation-based safety is a whole concept here that basically there's engagement that you can measure through conversations and ultimately through the presence of observations, because those observations don't have to be negative. They can be positive as well. And they're all important to have because it measures engagement.
Exactly. Yeah. Engagement is, and it's really a shift. Is we're measuring not the number of observations done anymore. We're actually, that's what the actual measure here we're proposing is a measure of engagement. And so how that's calculated is we take the actual craft hours worked and we divide it by the number of observations made by your teams on those jobs. And when you divide those two, you should get a number that is reflective of your engagement, your level of engagement. So why this is important? It's a leading indicator of how workers are being spoken to and engaged with the word safety or with the topic of safety. It places emphasis on increasing that engagement and increasing their ownership in their safety program. And then finally, it optimizes the number of observations being made. If you're doing too many observations, that's not good for you because you're wasting time that could be put to other purposes or other important uses. But if you're not doing enough, you're not engaging your craft enough and you're exposing yourself to higher risk. So this key metric number 3, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. So for this one, we analyzed the data as well and came up with what our target value is.
Yeah, and so after studying this massive amount of data, we found that pervasively across all high-performing programs, 100 hours, craft hours, per observation is the target that the industry should be shooting for. So what this means in essence is that you're having a conversation with each individual craft worker on your projects every 2.5 to 3 weeks. That in itself doesn't seem like a lot, but that seems to be the optimal level that workers need to be engaged is every 100 hours. And so when we do that, when we hit that number, we see very high performing safety programs. We see mature cultures evolve that report minor incidents. This reinforces all the incident reporting as well, by the way. And so this metric really does drive that engagement and that safety culture growth.
Excellent, Tim. Thanks. So what we've done now is walk you through how safety is measured today, and then 3 of these new metrics that we are suggesting the industry start moving towards with some specific benchmarks around what good performance looks like based on our analysis of the data that we have from our customers and as well as all the predictive models and metrics we've built. What does this enable? Well, I'm going to bring things, round things out here by talking about where the data and the metrics can be used, what the end goal is here, which is to use them to enable programs around predictive-based safety. So what is predictive-based safety? I'll give my quick definition, and Tim, please jump in here.
Sure.
We see predictive-based safety as allowing insights like the ones that we have from these metrics that we just shared with you to lead to action, which leads to loss reduction, all on top of data you already collect.
Exactly. Yeah. And we've given three here. We've given three of the example metrics here that we've been able to identify that work uniformly across the industry. But there are dozens more. We've got a lot more where that came from. And these insights all can lead to action. They all can lead to, hey, do we need to readjust our work, or do we need to engage this particular crew? These are all the types of actions that we're able to drive out of the insights that we're seeing. So really effective at helping mitigate loss.
Yeah, it's a great point, Tim, that this is a sampler of the many different kinds of metrics that we've been able to create across the data, both structured as well as now our ability to analyze unstructured data using AI, bringing those together to unlock insights, which where the insights go, going to the next slide here, how does it work? What it does is it allows you not just to look at thresholds and metrics and are we above or below a particular threshold. When you put it in combination with a predictive model, it does all of the analysis for you automatically. In other words, it looks at all of the different benchmarks. It looks at each project and where they sit relative to those benchmarks, like the ones we just shared with you. And then it ranks the projects every week. So every Monday morning, you have a list of your jobs ranked from riskiest to least risky. And then you have action items when you click on the project that tell you what to do. So it's using data to drive action. And really does not leave room for interpretation. It's not like a line graph where you might say, well, I'm not sure if that's good or bad. Or no, it says, these are your riskiest jobs, and here's where to focus your attention.
Yeah, the weekly risk report to me, Josh, really reminds me of my project manager days when I would get my weekly cost report every Wednesday. And I'd have to go through it, comb through it, and see, oh, geez, what codes am I doing well on? What codes am I doing poorly on? I would have to read that all on my own and interpret it and develop these actions on my own. But what the model does is it interprets all that for us, and it just distills it down to the single identifiable action items that we need to take in order to improve the risk profile on the job, which to me is taking a lot of work actually off of my plate as a project manager.
Yeah, it actually reduces the work required because now you know which 5 of your 40 jobs you want to focus on and what to do.
Yeah.
The way we depict that visually is here on this next slide. Today you've got 75 jobs that may need to get your attention, but with the combination of these metrics and predictive models, you now know which 5 should get your attention. It really helps focus the attention of the safety team as well as the specifics on a particular job, because we're able to give specific actions that should be taken based on what the data are showing.
Exactly. And this goes back to my comment earlier about how even without the predictive models, using just the metrics, our customers are able to drive down their incident rate and preserve their profits. Well, with the use of these, with the use of this predictive model, we're actually able to drive down that incident rate much further, up to 50% or greater. But just by knowing which projects to focus on and what some of those mitigative actions are that the project can take.
Yeah, and then there's a feedback loop, continuing how does it work? Each job, then you can see how well week to week did they improve on some of those specific metrics. Did, for example, they do the appropriate number of observations based on the man hours being worked? There's a simple dashboard that allows folks to stay on top of it. Again, taking stuff away from the safety team. They don't have to be following up with projects around the data. The system does it for them automatically, including, and this is a really exciting feature for Procore customers, the actions and the can be turned into observations in Procore so that it goes directly to the teams. And they have specific workflow items coming from the predictions that they can then follow up on.
Yeah, exactly. That's key to me. I would love to be able to go out to my Monday morning safety meeting and have the list of the four observations that were sent to me from my model, so I can read them off to my crews and get everybody on the same page for the week. That would have been such a great tool when I was out in the field.
Yeah, particularly if it's delivered there automatically, and then it's making everybody more efficient, and it's starting with the data. So speaking of that, we're wrapping things up here. We're going to talk about how we deploy it, and then how to find out more. Now, what we do is we tune these models on your data. We've got a really simple deployment process for Procore customers, where in the first phase, we pull the data using our Procore integration, as well as APIs from Procore, as well as from other systems. We deliver a health check report to you with benchmarking against these 3 metrics, as well as some of the others that we've developed. And then we actually give you a model result with metrics based on your data. So you not only get the benefit of the thousands of years of data that we have, you can see your own data with a model built on top of it. It's kind of like running a pilot in the past, because you can actually see what the model predicted and didn't predict. And then in the second phase, there's a decision. You get to make the decision. Do you want to go forward with a full model or just with metrics as we go live into the implementation? I always like putting the quote in here at the bottom from one of EVP of Health and Safety at Suffolk about there being a demonstrable opportunity to control hazards by deploying resources to sites where there's elevated risk. That's just one piece of it. It's also working with the project teams so that they know the kinds of actions to take. So Tim, I think we've reached the end here. We've shared. It's been a whirlwind here, but I know we're running low on time. So I think for any of the Procore participants, they should come by our booth. We'll have a booth here, virtual booth, obviously. And at the end of the day, if you want to figure out how to use the data you're gathering today to help address a critical risk factor in project delivery and safety, know which 20% of your projects will contribute 80% of your incidents, you can check out our guide to data-driven safety. You can contact us at info@newmetrix.com. We'll even share a 4th metric with you as to how to get started. And we'd be really excited to partner with you on this journey to really take advantage of all the data we're gathering, break down those digital filing cabinets, and be able to unlock new insights for safety. Tim, any final words here as we close out?
No, great. It was an honor to be here, and really excited to share these with the industry, and looking forward to more of it to come.
Sounds great. Thanks, everybody, and thanks to Procore for the opportunity to present.